There's an incredible article in the New York Times today about the extent to which psychologists backed up the Bush-era torture program. They say, quote, "The American Psychological Association secretly collaborated with the administration of President George W. Bush to bolster a legal and ethical justification for torture. Newly disclosed emails show that the group's actions to keep psychologists involved in the interrogation program coincided closely with efforts by senior Bush administration officials to salvage the program after the public disclosure in 2004 of graphic photos of prisoner abuse at Abu Ghraib." So, understand exactly what happened here. When those horrific, immoral, disgusting pictures leaked, which made the United States of America look like a fucking horrendous fascist regime doing the worst war crimes imaginable. When they leaked, the Bush administration didn't go, "Oh boy, we better reevaluate all this and maybe stop doing something that violates the Constitution and every international law ever." No, they looked at it and they said, "All right, how can we cover our ass and continue to torture?" So what did they do? They reached out to the American Psychological Association, or their buddies at the American Psychological Association, and those guys were like, "Oh yeah, no, we got your back. We're with you. We're going to come help you figure out some sort of legal or ethical rationale to justify the torture that you're doing." Stop and think about how gross that is. Because again, you always have to try to imagine it if it's from the eyes of somebody else, or if you flip the situation. So if we read a story about how in Russia they did the exact same thing, and then Putin or whoever called the head of the equivalent of the Russian Psychological Association, it's supposed to be objective, it's supposed to be medical, it's supposed to be scientific, calls them and says, "Just give me a reason for why it's good that I tortured, back me up on this," and they say, "Oh, yes, Mr. President, we are with you." How would we react? We'd be like, "Look at these fucking clowns over there. What a stupid country. Really? You torture somebody and it's okay because I made this guy who's a bullshit scientist say I'm with you on that." If Iran did it, if a Middle Eastern nation did it, we'd use that as a justification to go to war if we already wanted to do regime change in said country. But since it's us, we do it, and then we're surprised when the rest of the world goes, "Hey, you guys are pretty big fucking assholes. Did you know that?" We're like, "Oh, how dare you say that? We're Americans. We lead the world. We're great. What are you talking about?" It's stuff like this that drives me crazy, because I actually love my country, and I'm trying to fix my country, and I want to take us to a place where we're not, like, scoffed at by the world. But when we do shit like this, of course we're going to get scoffed at by the world, because we should get scoffed. I'm scoffing and I'm inside the country. This is terrible. All right, they're not done yet. They say the APA secretly coordinated with officials from the CIA, White House, and the Department of Defense to create an APA ethics policy on national security interrogations, which comported with then classified legal guidance authorizing the CIA torture program. The involvement of health professionals in the Bush-era interrogation program was significant because it enabled the Justice Department to argue in secret opinions that the program was legal and did not constitute torture, since the interrogations were being monitored by health professionals to make sure they were safe. So this got to the point where it was so backwards and so screwed up that the rationale of the Bush administration was like, well, at least since we now have psychologists involved in this, we can lie to the rest of the world if this were to ever get to court in any way, shape, or form, and we could say, it wasn't us, it was the psychologist who said it was okay. So, again, what does this come back to? What we just spoke about in the last segment. Diffusing the responsibility. What do you mean? Yeah, okay, so I'm Dick Cheney, or I'm George Bush, or I'm Donald Rumsfeld, or I'm in the CIA, but you can't blame me. I was just following orders. Where have you heard that argument before? No, this is not Godwin's law to invoke it right now because it's literal. That's exactly the argument that you heard in Nazi Germany. All the SS guards, people who were doing lookout at concentration camps, when these people were put on trial, their main argument was, what do you mean? What could I have done to stop it? I was just following orders. Well, at what point does somebody have responsibility? So if the person standing watch doesn't have responsibility for taking part in the genocide, how about the person that shoved somebody into the gas chamber? Can they just say, the higher-ups told me to do it, so I did it? So then when you go talk to the higher-ups, what do they say? I wasn't the one who actually did it. I just told somebody to do it, but they actually did it, so you can't blame me because I was removed from it. I didn't do the physical act. Everybody's got a fucking excuse, man. Everybody's got a fucking excuse. And let's just keep everything in perspective here. A reminder of what was done. Sleep deprivation, waterboarding, mock burials, loud music for hours on end, which can drive somebody crazy. No breaks, really loud music, you play it for hours on end. Hypothermia torture. By the way, somebody who was innocent died when we did hypothermia torture of them. It was cold out, we poured cold water on them, we left, came back the next morning, the person was dead. Threats of violence to family members. That's another thing that they did, stay classy. I'm going to rape your wife, I'm going to kill your daughter, this and that. Forced nudity and sleeping on the floors, so making them do that. And, of course, the classic rectal feeding, which isn't even a thing. I love how the Bush administration said when this was released, Dick Cheney was on talk shows going, it's a medical procedure, what are you talking about? Then they would have medical experts on, and they're like, he has no clue what he's talking about. That's not a thing. That's not a real thing. There's no medical procedure, rectal feeding. That leads to, lesions and bruises and internal bleeding, and you can't do that. What, are you crazy? That's ridiculous. But Cheney's like, no, it was medical. Because I say so, it was medical. No, you fucking wanted to anal rape somebody and pump liquefied food up there because you're a savage. That's what it is. So here's my takeaway from this, man. In my mind, there is no diffusion of responsibility. You're all fucking guilty. You're all guilty. Every single one of you, everybody at the APA who took part in this and said, I'll give you some sort of rationale, I'll come up with a bullshit reason why it's okay to violate international law and the Constitution. Everybody at the CIA who was involved with this, everybody in the Bush administration who birthed this idea and knew what was going on and allowed it. Every single one of you should have been put on trial, and you should have been put in fucking jail. Because you and I both know, if this was something that we knew of our enemies doing, and then there was a war, and then the war came to an end, and then we beat the enemies, and then we put them on trial, what fucking objective courtroom anywhere would say, it's okay, they can get away with this? Why? Because some psychological institute gave a bullshit reason, whatever, just let them go. No, I'm sorry, but there are some things where you can't just invoke the, we are America, by definition what we do is right argument.